We're here.
Yes. Good evening, everybody. Happy Thursday. It is 6 p.m. Welcome to Vested. We are here this evening to inspire you, to create things, and to empower you.
Boom.
Boom. Jamar?
July 30, 2020. We're here. Hey, how'd you like that intro, Coach D? Rebecca and the tech team, come on.
We're creeping on it.
Progress, making progress.
That's it. So this will be the second episode of our little pilot series while we figure ourselves out from the living room in Jamar's office. We had some audio stuff that we were ironing out earlier, so know that we were hard at work getting better for you. But I thought today what we would do is iron out the Vested team. Let's get into the Damien and Jamar story first, and then maybe we can focus on us as individuals to give you a little background on what inspired us to be here this afternoon. So, Jamar, if you don't mind, I'd like to start with where we met. We actually met in the exact same place that we were broadcasting from today. We were competing in a Toastmasters competition, and I'm in my bedroom competing in a competition that's normally done live, and Jamar was in his kitchen competing in a competition that is usually live. And there's just something about this guy and the way that he prepared, the way he took it so serious that here he is in a suit in his kitchen, and even just the questions that he was asking while we were practicing, it inspired me. And we'll get into my story and everything, but being the inspiration guy, it's not like I'm running around looking for things that inspire me all the time, but sometimes something just strikes me. And the way that he chose to approach something as simple as competing in a competition online where we weren't going to really receive anything I mean, there's no money, there's no fame. We're doing it to better ourselves. And I really appreciated how much time and effort Jamar took in doing himself, in creating a better self. So I reached out and I said, hey, man, I don't know why, but I just need to know you. And we started to develop a friendship. And we really didn't meet face to face until we did the photo shoot for this show. So
right.
Tell us a little bit how I affected you from my bedroom.
Oh man, thank you, Coach D, and just want to say hello to all the Vested community out there, and just want to tell you we love you and thank you for being here and being vested in whatever you're doing in your life. Just make sure you're vested, because if you're not vested, it's not going to happen. But here, our story, like Coach D is talking about, we met in the Toastmaster arena. And if you've ever heard of the organization of Toastmasters is a global organization based on leadership and communication. And Coach D was working on his leadership and his communication. And I was in another club working on my leadership and communication. I've been a part of Toastmasters for 5 years. And with the Toastmasters organization, there's different competitions throughout the year. And Damien decided to compete through his club, and I competed in my club. And next thing you know, we're competing against each other in this virtual space. See, what COVID has done is it's made everyone pivot. Like we talked about last week, don't panic, but pivot. It's created an environment where there's more people connected to the social virtual world. And for Toastmasters, there was just a huge pivot. And so we were competing in this space, and we were doing a pre-contest meeting. And I saw this guy giving out some positive energy vibrations. And I ended up connecting with him. And that's you, Coach D. When we were saying a few words in the chat line. Yeah, you were like, come on.
Hey. Live. And they didn't do it. So. Jamar, the inspiration that took place, I guess in that moment, is what led us here. I didn't ask to, well, I guess in Toastmasters, we both demanded it of ourselves that we were going to get better, and we push ourselves to find a better way to be able to express ourselves in that club. But a lot of times, very similar to what we're going through right now, we run into situations that we didn't ask for, and we get an opportunity to better ourselves that is packaged in this thing that is quite ugly and often very difficult to understand and experience. And going into my story and what led me to this particular moment was something that happened to me some years ago that was very uncomfortable. And it changed everything that I understood as who I was and where I was going and what happiness looked like. I was on a family vacation and I dove off the back of a boat. It was just a hot summer day, and I did it with my arms out in front of me. And when my chin hit the water, it dislocated my spine. When that happened, I suffered a spinal lesion between my cervical vertebrae 4 and 5. This rendered me quadriplegic. And when I woke up in the hospital 10 days later and I ran my tongue across my teeth, I was like, well, the doctor asked, do you know why you're here? And I was like, well, yeah, my teeth are jacked. I need to see a dentist. And he said, reach up and try to touch your nose. And at that point, my life changed so dramatically that everything that I knew about who I was now in question. And the craziest part about it is, as the years would go by and as I'd start to understand myself a little bit better, the inspiration for me to want to go on had to come from within. I had to find something deeper than things. The path that was before me, my understanding, my thoughts that told me what happiness was, those thoughts were failing me because I could no longer do happiness in the same way. What we're going through right now, we don't have a choice. We're focused on all of these ideas that are brand new, and we have to, in a way, accept it whether we like it or not. So a broken neck, in a way, is very easy to accept in that I don't have the choice. I didn't have the choice. I was paralyzed, and I was either going to suffer or I was going to choose to surrender to what was going on and figure out how I was going to make this life work for me. So it took a long time. It took a long time to create a life worth living. And I had to stumble through a lot of thoughts and a lot of feelings and a lot of emotions that I didn't understand. And that's part of getting through something that you don't have control over. You have to look at it for what it is, and you have to peel back the layers and try to start to understand what it is that you're seeing, because a lot of it might have been masked in this veil of what you wanted it to be or how you wanted it to be. And maybe there's some things that you should have changed in your life that you didn't necessarily do that you probably should have, and you just get around to it later, and then something happens where you're faced with it. And Jamar, I want to kick it over to you at this point, because when we met in person, Jamar let us know a little bit about who he was as a person and how he got here. And there's something about a virtual space that's cool because you can get to know me through this little camera, you know. But when we got to meet in person and feel each other's energies as human beings, more came out. And I got to know a little bit more about Jamar. And I'd like you to share with everybody who you are and what kind of led you to be inspired, Jamar, to want to share what you've learned through your life experiences.
Man, Coach D, that how we came together.
Jamar, baby, we have been having audio problems. And right now we are.
Oh, you guys can't hear me.
At an uncomfortable rate because I can't hear Jamar.
Oh, no. Oh, man. No, so you can't hear me.
I will tell you.
Coach D.
Right before I went on this vacation that changed my life, I went to a sporting goods store and there was a sale outside. And I got this hat that I have on top of my head for $10. And I was like, yes, a $10 hat. And it worked well because I was going to the river and I needed something that would breathe a bit in the extreme heat. So I was afraid of overheating. Little did I know that I was the water I needed to worry about. But anyway, when I was on this pontoon boat and I went to the very back and steadied my feet, right before I dove off, I remember thinking, put your hands out in front of you so that you don't.
Hey, D, I'm back. Can you hear me?
So if I were to do it 100 more times, I'd probably do it the same way.
Oh.
The reason it comes back to my hat is because this hat was on my head when I jumped off the back of the boat. Now I've gotten into many arguments, well, not arguments, but conversations with other people about why I would keep something like this. And, well, I can't exactly see the scar on the back of my neck as a reminder. And though I will never forget what that dive did to my life, there's something that I hold on to that reminds me of how lucky I am to still be here. And even better, that I can now take these hands and put this hat on, because when I dove off the back of the boat, the diagnosis was that you are fully quadriplegic, and I couldn't move anything at all for 8 months. So I was at home in a wheelchair that I had to use a straw where I would blow into it, called a sip and puff wheelchair to get me around. And I'm doing my best Let's try to like wait so we can hear Jamar again.
Coach D, can you hear me?
There's no sound.
Yeah.
Now there's an echo.
That's good.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
I'm back? No.
I can hear you on Rebecca's computer. Are we good on this one?
Yes.
Can you
Go
guys
ahead,
hear me?
Jamar. Talk.
Check.
Yeah.
I just hear nothing. This is the best.
Okay.
Oh, it's in my ear. That's why. It's in this thing now.
Yeah. It just clicked on. You're good, Jamar.
Can you guys hear me?
Woo! Iron out.
Oh man, hey, just like what E360 told us, right? E360 just want to tell you we love you, thank you for the platform. But E360 said when you guys start, you will have technical challenges, right? And we just work through it. We just work through it. So I want to get back on that thought track. Can you guys hear me clear?
Yes.
There is
Okay. Is that better?
Sure.
Coach D, is that better?
Yes.
Okay, got it. So there. Am I in your ear or?
No, it's not better. I told lies. There's no betterness. It's connected to Bluetooth, but I think it's still going into the ear. Hey, for all you live people that are still watching, you guys are soldiers. Thank you for supporting us. Like I said earlier, that this is the inception of this show, so we're going to do our very best to broadcast the quality that we're prepared to at.
Oh, we're going vertical from here, man. Come on.
I feel like this is better anyway. Like I'm having fun trying to figure it out, and this is what the 3 episodes is about. This is how we're going to let people know that this is an imperfect world, and we're doing our best to succeed within it. And happiness involves this type of stuff. Success involves this type of stuff. Nobody gets on there and is a superstar, all-star their very first time, and I'm not making excuses. I'm just being totally real. That's what we're up to. Jamar.
Well, you talk about that process of learning. The process of learning is awkward mechanical flow, right? You think about any time we start something, it's going to be awkward. Learning the platform here, learning the technology, learning the technical components. It might be awkward, but then we're going to get through awkward, and we're going to be in the mechanical phase where we can see it, think it, do it, and then we're going to be in the flow stage where we're going to be making art on the canvas. So it doesn't matter what it is, whether it's a relationship, starting a live stream TV show, whether it's working out for the first time or starting a new employment, new job, and anything that's starting from the beginning is going to be awkward. So whatever you're going through out there, whatever you're embracing for the first time, Vested community, if it feels awkward, you're in the right place. Keep going. Don't give up in that awkward zone, no matter how awkward it is. There's no way for you to make it to the flow. There's no way we're going to make it to vested flow state if we don't get through the awkward state. And so that's where we're at right now. But Coach D, real quick, I'm back on track. I was fumbling around with my tech. Did we talk about your hat already?
Yeah, you know what? When nobody could hear, that's what I fumbled on about my hat. So I threw it out there that this hat has been swimming with me multiple times and still on my head. So
okay. So you were telling me that the day that the incident happened, you were wearing that same exact hat. Is that correct?
That's exactly correct.
Now, how many years ago was that?
I think we're coming up on 17 this month, actually.
So that hat, and then how long did you have that hat before the accident?
A couple days. So my question for you, because you said your mom encouraged you to get rid of the hat. Yeah.
So what inspired you to keep hold of that hat?
There's 2 ways of looking at things, and I think that if somebody were to look at this hat and it were to remind them of a day that changed their life in a way that was so horrendous that they never wanted to, or they did want to forget it because it hurt so bad, then yeah, I can understand how it would bring suffering to people. But to me, I've learned how to look at life differently. You don't get your body back when you injure yourself and something changes you forever physically, and it's up to you to be able to play your hand in the best way you can. You have an opportunity to turn it into something great or to suffer. And when I look at this hat or when I put it on my head, it's a reminder of how lucky I am to still have the opportunity to exist and to have thoughts and feelings and emotions and to be able to share them with other people. This process that we're going through, this we are process. I am here experiencing this, and we are experiencing it together because you're listening to what I'm saying. I'm not just sitting here looking at this camera broadcasting to nobody. You guys are a part of the experience with me. So yeah, I look at it now and it's a reminder of how lucky I am to just be able to continue to have experiences. And I'm inspired to be able to share as much as I can through the things that I've learned, whether they're suffering or succeeding, so that I can add value. And Jamar, I'm not going to let you dodge this. What you might not have heard while we were trying to get the audio situation taken care of is that you inspired me as well when we got to meet in person. And there was something special about two people meeting, physically interacting. We're doing our best here to be virtual and stay positive while all this stuff happens that we don't necessarily understand. But when we got to meet each other in person and when we started to exchange ideas about what brought us to that point and who you were as a father and as a son and as a person, as an individual, will you share a little bit about your background and who Jei'mar Spell is before the two of us met?
Absolutely. And for me, as of the time of this live stream, July 30, 2020, I'm 40 years young. I am a father, man of faith. God has given me a spirit of encouragement. I'm an encourager. My daughter, Khalees Faith, she'll be 10, August 12th, coming up here next month. And my son, little King Levi Marshall, he'll be 3, December 22nd. Growing up, I was always around family, and that always encouraged me that I can do anything. My mom and my dad were never married. They were never married. And my dad and my mom always had a great relationship. I've lived with my mom, and my mom was my mom and dad until my mom married my stepdad. But my dad has always been in my life. And my mom married my stepdad right when I was around 8 or 9. And my stepdad has just been an amazing person to me and to the family. But I've had nothing but love in my life. My dad taught me about the spiritual component, about being a faith warrior. And then my stepdad showed me what it's like to be a provider and to take care of the family. So I had 2 different fathers in my life, giving me 2 different vibrations. And I have ultimate respect for both of them. And my mom, just, Joyce Baker, she's just super amazing. And, most people don't know what it's like to even have a loving parent. Like, I have so much love for my mom, I can give it away to a country. Like, that's how much my mom loves me. And I'm just grateful for that. But growing up, I played sports, and I was always told that you can do it, you can do it, you can do it, Jay, you can do it. And I've always done my best to be a leader. I thought after high school I was going to go play. I was talking to Fresno State, Colorado State, San Diego State. I was going to go play football, but that wasn't God's plan. My mom told me, Jamar, it's time to go to school. I went to junior college, and day 2, Coach D, in junior college, I went to an intermission, like a little break, and I never came back. I went home and I told my mom school's not for me. She said, you better go to work. Now I'm 19, and she said, well, what do you want to do? She said, there's an apprenticeship program, and I went to work as an electrician. For the next 7 years, I went to a trade school, Associated Builders and Contractors, learn how to be an electrician, construction work, and just had an amazing time. Worked with men, and I grew up, right, just working around an adult environment. And then back in 2003, I took a leap of faith, and I said, hey, there's more out there than what I'm doing. I'm going to take a leap of faith. And so I just jumped into the finance industry, 100% commission finance industry back in 2003. 17 years later, I'm in leadership development and finance. But during that time, the mother of my daughter, I've known her for 28 years. Her name's Annie Mae. We're great friends. She's a phenomenal person, a phenomenal mother. During that time in the early 20s, we had a dating relationship, intimate relationship. We didn't have at that time vision of being a family. We were in our mid 20s. And then she gets pregnant around 28, 29. And the day she told me she was pregnant, we're like, man, what I said, I don't want to be a dad. And like, we had this altercation. I said, I don't want to be a dad. She's like, well, I don't care what you want. I'm going to have this baby. So I hung up the phone with Annie. I called my dad. I told my dad, I said, guess what, Dad? And he's like, Annie's pregnant. I was like, what, Dad? How'd you know? He said, I don't know how my dad knew, but my dad knew. And he's told me, he's saying, listen, I said, Dad, I'm not ready to be a dad. And I was 29. And he said, I remember when your mom got pregnant and your aunt told me to tell your mom to have an abortion. And that's all my dad told me. And like at that conversation, like that's a conversation that I will remember for the rest of my life with my dad. So I called Annie back. I said, listen, I apologize. And we never talked about not having a child after that moment. And 10 years later, I'm so grateful because my daughter has supernaturally just changed my life. mom were intimate was the night we created our daughter. And that was 11 years ago. You know, her family loves my family. My family loves her family. My mom calls her daughter. Her mom calls me son. So my daughter gets the best of both worlds. You know, we're co-parents, no court, no drama. We talk as adults. We always communicate and figure things out. And our job is just to love our daughter and to give her the most amazing experience. And so that was my exposure, introduction to being dad with my daughter. Fast forward to 4 years ago, I meet Brooke Marshall. Brooke came out of a divorce and she was with a man for 16 years. And from my understanding, Brooke was the driver of that relationship. You know, some women are like that, where they're like the leaders of the house, and that's totally cool. But that was the dynamic she told me she had. And they were trying to have a daughter, and they got pregnant. And when she went full term with her daughter, they ended up losing her after she was born. She passed away 33 days after being born. So I meet Brooke a year and a half. At that time, now her marriage didn't make it because of that, and then her daughter didn't make it. So I meet her a year and a half after that. And right away, we get on a supernatural rocket ship. I told her about my daughter and my daughter's mom. I said, there's no court, no drama. She told me about how she lost her daughter and the marriage. And she was in a major healing process, man. And I fell in love with her. We moved very fast. Sometimes we put the cart in front of the horse. You know, God's like, hey, guys, slow down. And we're like, hey, no, let's speed up. And that's what happened. You know, I thought that, we're talking children and marriage. And I moved in with her. And then I moved out and we were working on a relationship. And then boom, she gets pregnant. And I remember the day she told me she was pregnant. We called her mom, and her mom's excited. We called my dad and my mom, and everyone's excited. And I remember Brooke telling me, she's like, I want to do this as a family. And I was like, let's go. 4 months into her being pregnant, she said, I'm keeping the baby and I don't want you. So I went through frustration, resentment, anger, bitterness. Man, without the grace of God, it was a supernatural healing process. Fast forward to today. Man, we have a great relationship. Brooke is an amazing mother. And, do I know why things worked out the way they worked out? No, but that's just the way they is. That's just the way they happen. Brooke and Annie have a great relationship. My mom has a great relationship with Brooke and Annie. And God's blessed me with two badass moms. Is that a script I would have written for my life? No, but I wouldn't change it. So here, I don't ever have to think about the safety of my children. I have two women who were just born to be mothers. And they do such an amazing job. And I'm extremely grateful for both of them. And here I am today, man, just rocking and rolling. And so
I got to cut in, man. The thing that inspired me, the reason that I wanted you to share the story with everybody is because there wasn't a hitch. And that's what moved me when we met, that you sat here and explained it as though it was just this thing that happened. And there were about 4 or 5 different places in that story where a lot of people choose to take the opportunity to say, this is why I broke down. And life is going to knock you down. Life is going to give you challenges that you're going to have to spin around like a puzzle piece and figure out where they fit. And I think we can make excuses, or we can decide that this is the type of person that I want to be, and go right into the eye of the storm and figure it out. Because this confusing time that we're dealing with right now, we don't have an answer to it. There's no end in sight. So I think a good place to start was to be able to find inspiration. If you can't find it within yourself, find it within someone else that you love or that you admire. So you want to move into the creation of things. Once I finally surrendered to the idea that I was going to have to move forward as a quadriplegic, and that life was going to be very different, and there was a certain level of acceptance that I had to apply towards things that really sucked, and just accept the idea that that's the way that it was. Did I roll over? Did it mean that I was going to accept a life that was less than? No. And I think that struggle, it took a toll on me to have to get beyond that. I had to get beyond the idea of this is how you have to be happy. That's where we're at right now. We're looking at this life and we're going, do we want it to be back how it was? Do we want it to change? I mean, there's all this stuff that kind of sucks and we really want it to just go away, but that's not how it works. You have to put in hard work. You have to have the right thoughts, and then you have to kindle those thoughts with passion and emotion. If you want to create a life worth living, you have to figure out why. Why do you want to keep pushing forward? Is it to continue to live a 9 to 5 and just pay your bills? Rebecca and I, once we got married, let's rewind a little bit, Rebecca and I, my wonderful tech who is over there making the magic, communicating with everybody. Woo! And she's the one behind all the beautiful things that you see on the screen and the one interacting. Anyway, I met this woman. She came into my life as a caregiver, but we fell in love with who we were. Not who we were going to be, not what we once were, the person that she brought to the table in the now. I was addicted immediately. She was officially my care provider for a while. There's a really cool story where she walked in with chocolate chip cookies, and I looked at her and said, "There's no way you can do this." And she said, "I'm mighty," and I hired her. We just really started to enjoy the time we spent together. She made me want to be a better person. She made me want to try again. She gave me the inspiration to start to be able to become aware of how much life there was available to live, even from a limited perspective. And then she made me realize that the only reason that my perspective was limited is because I chose to accept thoughts that supported that. I didn't want to do that for the rest of my life. There was an adventure in me. There was a Damien that I loved being before I ran into this problem that I couldn't force my will upon. I couldn't force my will upon my spinal cord injury to get better. So I was at a crossroad. So once I decided to accept the idea that life is worth living and I am worth it, magic started happening. And it wasn't this super awesome thing. I was crying. I threw my hands up in the air. I needed caregiver help. And then when I finally just said, just send me something, universe, God, please, something showed up. And it's because I was ready. And when I was ready, even though it was in a different package than I was aware of what it is that I might need, I was open to the possibility of it being outside the realm of the life I had become used to living. At that point, we got married. We traveled to Bali. We lived there for 3.5 years. We created an incredible life. And then we came home. We sold all our stuff to go to Bali. So we came home to what most would call nothing. What I came home to was a me that I understood, and a best friend that loved me for who I was, and an opportunity to do something with it. How did your experiences, Jamar, create the person you are today? How did all of that stuff that you just breezed through make you a better person, even though it was so difficult that you almost quit?
Well, you think about the story you're sharing, right? Think about the pressure, the challenge, the adversity that you're explaining right now, right? It's created the man you are today, right? You look at the diamond. The diamond is not born the finished product of the diamond. The diamond goes through a refining process, a lot of pressure, a lot of heat to become the diamond. And I think all of us, every one of us out there, has our own stories of the process that we've gone through to become the diamonds we are. The challenge is, Coach D, is that some of us know we're diamonds and some of us don't. And so we're here to encourage you to let everyone know you're a diamond. Like, what you're going through is making you stronger. What you're going through is building you up. What you're going through is taking you to where you need to go. And it may not be easy, and what
I was going to feel that.
What was that?
It's not always going to feel that way. You're right. I'm just totally agree.
Yeah. It's not going to feel that way. Right. But the man I am today is because of a lot of compounding events, right? No one thing made us who we are today. Even your one event didn't make you who you are today. There's a series of decisions, experiences, and thought processes that got you here. And I want to share this with you, Coach D. You know this, and say this to the whole Vested community. The only reason I'm here with Coach D is because he inspires me. And I know a lot of people. I say that humbly, but I say it very boldly. I know a ton of people. But it was on my heart when I met Coach D to ask him to embark on this journey with me and to present the idea of us creating this, and him saying, hey, let's do, like, I see it. Let's do it. Let's make it happen. So the reason why you're even here is because of your spirit inspiring me. And then if you're going to inspire me, a man of inspiration, who lives to inspire and encourage others, if you can inspire me, man, I was like, this dude can inspire many. And so that's what I saw in you, man.
Growth is inevitable, or would you say it's a choice? Would it just happen if you just let it? Is it something that just is, eventually goes down, or do you have to choose? Did you choose, or did it just unfold?
Growth is a choice. As human beings, we grow. We can't change our physical growth. But when it comes to the growth outside of our physical growth, that's absolutely a choice. Where there's two things that are happening. We're either dying or we're growing. There is no in between. And so once we focus on growth, beautiful things come from that growth mindset. That's why it says that the two mindsets, right? You got the fixed mindset and you have the growth mindset. And so I'm always encouraging people to have that growth mindset, because especially in the world we live in today, if you're not focused on growing, if you're not focused on collaborating, if you're not focused on personal development, if you're not focused on growing to that next version of you, like, what are you doing?
Hey, Jamar, there's something that I get fairly often. And a lot of people, as I explained in my story, that I didn't have the choice. And when you have a broken neck and you wake up unable to move, you suffer or surrender. And people look at me and they say, well, listen, I have problems of my own, but nothing like yours. And I look at it like we're put at the edge of our seat, all of us in our lives. I would like it if you could just real quick, because I made this connection, and I'm sure everybody else that's watching will probably did make the same connection to your story. It's a little bit easier to attach to a real world story that is an everyday occurrence. And unfortunately, that's where we're at right now. The sanctity of marriage has been a little confusing. What it means to be a son or a daughter or a mom or a dad, all that is like, except this broken neck, paralyzed thing. People are like, oh my God, yeah, of course you change your mind. But to me, I was inspired by your story because it was just so nonchalant. And I want to know a little bit about how you were inspired by the things that were very difficult, because I think that's what's of value right now. I think that what you and I can share with people is not necessarily that we are these diamonds as much, or these leaders as much, as people that have experienced normal human things, that we've gotten the crap beat out of us. And yes, we are the type that chooses to get up, but that's inspirational to make the choice to look at it, even though it's hard, and to accept the idea that what happiness is going to mean beyond this is that I'm going to have to suffer a little bit, that this is going to be uncomfortable. So I can't imagine how uncomfortable that conversation with your dad must have been. I can't imagine how uncomfortable it must have been to have to make a decision to do things separately. But right now, we have to do that if we're respecting each other. We have to accept the idea that what's going on in front of us is uncomfortable. And as much as we're going to do it together, your story of how you guys did it together and different, explain to me how that applies to how people might think right now as a real world example to create something positive in this world of indecision or indecisiveness.
Right now, when you think about what can we control, the stories that I just shared about who I am today, those are all external situations. But the only thing that I can control is my own attitude and my own action. And so every person who's listening to this now and forever, and even for you, Coach D, right? The only thing as people that we can control is our attitude and our actions. And if we lose sight that is what we have control over, it's easy to focus on everything else that we don't have control of. Once we lose sight of what we have control over, which are attitude and actions, once we lose sight of that, we focus on all of the millions of things that we don't have control over. And when we choose to focus on the things that we don't have control over, it can be overwhelming. It can create anxiety. It can create depression. It can create fear. It can create doubt. It can create lack, uncertainty. And the next thing you know, that energy spirals and you're going weeks, you're going months, you're going years down this dark road because we're focused on all these things we can't control. And so today, when I saw that today, the message I want to share is that, what are you really focused on? Are you really focused on your actions and your attitude? Or are you focused on everything else that's happening that you can't control? Because that's the only thing I did, man. I focused on my attitude and worked on self. And, me being a man of faith, like we talked about last week, without the grace of God, man, I don't know how that would have happened. I don't know how I don't know what kind of man I would be today if I didn't have that kind of relationship, because what I went through is like, it's not something I got through on my own. I felt that had a lot of help internally to get to this place, but attitude and action is what we do have control over. And whatever you're going through out there, whoever's listening now and forever, focus on that. What kind of attitude are you allowing yourself to have, and what actions are you taking to keep moving forward? So that's the message, Coach D, is attitude and action, man.
Well, let's move on to empowerment, because I think empowerment it's a dodgy word right now, because how are we supposed to be empowered by the way we feel? I feel like, well, let's go back to, since this is the inception, to when I moved back from Indonesia. I was so happy to be able to share a self that I had rediscovered, a Damien that was entirely me, that I finally accepted this part of my life, this understanding of what this has become, this full situation, the Damien before I got hurt and the Damien in a chair. And I was so happy to share it with everybody, because I believe that a lot of the problems that I might have created, or actually learned this before I got hurt, were still present after. And it's so easy to just look at the current situation and say, well, of course, well, I can't, and this is why. And how am I going to empower anyone if I can't empower myself? Is basically what I'm getting at. And I came back so excited to be able to share this idea of who I was, and how abundantly happy I was about things that I didn't used to be. And when I ran into this idea of how everybody was struggling with their ideas and emotions, and how they were turning these thoughts that they were having into this passion situation that wasn't creating a desired effect, I was like, okay, I remember what this feels like. And I still have this programming in my mind, this indoctrinated thinking that I remember. And it's hard not to go back there when I'm around people that tend to think the same way as I used to, because those are the people I hung out with. Those are the people I talked to. Those are the people whose time I enjoyed, and they enjoyed mine. And it was like great to be around them. Those are the people that I love. But once you let go of all of the things that you can't necessarily control, and you start to learn how to accept how wonderful things can be from a different perspective, like this hack mom, it opens a door to be able to experience life in a different way. When I was frustrated about how I couldn't share myself, this Damien that I was so excited to be back in touch with, I was involving the same type of forceful ego that I used to do when I wanted people to see things from my perspective. So even though I was happy, it's this we are process. I can't necessarily just discard everybody else's understanding of what's going on because I feel a certain way. And that's why I chose to bring the story up right now, because everybody's going through this understanding of what's going on in their own way. And a lot of the things that brought them to who they are currently aren't necessarily the things that support who they want to be in the future. So as we all figure out who we are now and how we want to project this person into the future, we have to understand that there's certain layers of the onion that we're going to need to peel back. And there's certain stuff about us that we're going to need to leave behind. And some of it's going to be comfortable because it's been a weight that's been weighing us down. But some of it's going to be uncomfortable because it's these things that we've been shielding ourselves from what real life really is so that we could just get by. But life is meant to live. We're not supposed to just get by. And when I started to recognize that it was my selfishness, because that's what it was, that wanted everybody else to just be happy, when everybody else had their own thoughts and their own problems from their own perspectives, I started to be able to also let go of my need to understand the world the way that I wanted to. Because I think that there's value in assessing how we understand the world and putting time into the idea that it would be better if we could just find happiness in the thoughts that we're having and the things that we're doing. Because who knows how much time we've got. I mean, if you break your neck, you're going to have limited time. Well, the chances of you living less days is there. The chances of your immune system being compromised it's there. So you have to look at it and you have to accept it. And the minute that you can accept the idea that it might be shorter because of normal biological things, you learn to appreciate the time that you have. And I'm learning to appreciate all of it, including this COVID situation, including figuring out how to stumble through broadcasting a webinar, figuring out myself. I'm struggling through all this stuff. I'm empowered to get up here and share with you what I've learned, but at the same time, I question myself as well. I doubt myself every day. I don't know how this is going to all end up. I just know that right now, the Damien that I enjoy the most is the one that can feel good about offering value and feel good about sharing how I can utilize these experiences that I've had that didn't really make much sense to be able to be vulnerable with and to be able to share with everybody else so that maybe together we can learn from them so that we don't have to experience this uncomfortable suffering type scenario. Jamar?
Coach D, I got a question real quick on that thought. What would you say today, as the man you are today, to someone who is going through a challenge that you went through 17 years ago, Damien? Like, what message would you tell them today, knowing what you know now? Like you said, I mean, you're still developing and growing, and being human is real. But what would you say to someone who is just now embarking on a journey of a life-altering journey, or going through something that they didn't see coming? Like, what would be your message to them?
The first thing I would probably say is everything's going to be all right. If that's what you want to believe, then hold space for that thought, because there's going to be times where it's not going to feel that way. And you're going to have to remember that part of everything being all right is getting through the difficult experiences and feelings associated with it not being all right. It sounds backwards, but the moment you realize that in some way, shape, or fashion, this discomfort that you're experiencing right now that totally sucks, which could be your lowest, your most bottom, is going to be part of your success story later, if you believe that that's the case. I really think that people have trouble believing that things are going to be better when they're not in the moment, because they think that everything should always just be better. And you know what? The sweet doesn't taste good without the bitter. There's something about experiencing life that, from its most difficult point of view, that gives you perspective and helps you appreciate and be more grateful and to express gratitude out into the world. And then when you get around people that are doing that, it's just like you run into some of these people that just look around and are just loving themselves and loving the day and and it's just like a breath of fresh air. And I really want to connect with people on a level like that as much as possible. But I also want to connect on a level with people that are experiencing frustration and anger and suffering as well. I don't want to suffer with you, but I want to hold space and let you know that I'm empowered by the idea that you're not giving up and that you're continuing to push forward. And that even though it's difficult, I understand that you might be feeling this way, and I understand that it might hurt, but you keep going, keep pushing forward. Jamar, I need you. Okay, so talk to me about how this show, in your eyes or in your opinion, is going to empower people. How are our stories or our concepts or our ideas going to get into people's minds and hearts so that they could experience this I am we are process with us?
The whole message, our vibration here, our frequency, is to give and help other people. You know, there's nothing that we're doing right now that someone else can't do in another area of their life? Or what book do you want to start? Right. What podcast do you want to start? What live stream video do you want to get after? What do you want to build? What company do you want to create? What relationship do you want to pursue? You know, that our message here is to empower people to go do it. Like you just said, go do it. You know, despite what has happened in the past, if God woke you up today, or whatever your belief system is, if you're awake today, there's more for us to do. And so our message here, not only do we want to inspire people with how we are taking action and through our own life experiences, but we also want to use that inspiration to create things that will empower other people to feel that they can do it. And that, I think that right there, when you're talking about the belief system, Coach D, you know, this says the people, when you believe you can't do it, you're right. When you believe you can do it, you're right. And so our message here is to empower you by letting you know that you need to believe that you can do it, whatever it is. You're not going to figure it all out in the beginning. There's no way to see the end road from the beginning. We talked about that. But here, you know, more than anything, I don't care if it's just one person who takes action and kicks butt because of Vested, or millions of people, is to empower others to create that stronger universe, that stronger frequency of people out there who are lighting the light of other people. See, we're here to be a light for other people who want to be lights for other people. You know, this, when Coach D and I have our candle, you know, we can light millions of candles. And with that candle, it can just continue. And so you're watching this, you're listening to this, you know, you're a light yourself. Now, here's the question. Here's the challenge. Who are you inspiring? Who are you empowering? What are you creating? You know, that's the message, you know, so you're going to be challenged here. You're going to be encouraged here. You know, this is about leadership. It's about taking action. This is about us being perfectly imperfect, right? We talked about, and we're here to give back. And I'm so excited for how this is going to develop, where it's going to go. And we're going to make it happen, man. We are making it happen because we're here. Boom.
Listen, I want to keep it tight too, Jamar. I don't ever want to drag on, and I don't ever want to sit here and, you know, look at a clock and say we only have this much more time or X, Y, Z. I think that one of the things that's going to make this show unique is the fact that we're up here being vulnerable.
Right. Real talk. Real talk.
Real talk. And I look, I really don't want to I don't know how to approach this. Jamar, this world supports an agenda that says that there's thoughts out there that Black men and people in wheelchairs are X, Y, Z, and we're not going to do that on this show. And I think to inspire people and to create things and to empower, we definitely need to recognize what it is that what's in front of us. But that we don't necessarily need to have thoughts and emotions that support anything that's already happened up to this point. So I'd like everybody, all of our viewers out there, to be able to look at this show and to see Jamar and to see Damien. And we're here to be able to share with you in this human process of unfolding our consciousness one day at a time. There are important things to do and to think and to feel. And right now, there's a lot of stuff out there that I don't necessarily know if I would say was important. So if there is a closing message that we can share with everybody for our show today, at least, is to try to be mindful about the information that you let into your life right now.
Boom.
There are outlets in ways that we haven't seen before ever, maybe in human history, to be able to feed you information. So when you're on your computer or when you're on your phone or when you're in front of your television, hey man, watch whatever you normally watch. But I want this show right now to put an idea into your head. And the idea is this who I am? Is this who I want to be? Is this the life that I want to experience in this moment? Not, hey, this is the news that happened today, and this is what happened last week, and this is what's going to happen tomorrow, and there's this ventilator, and there's that, and there's this. No, I'm talking about the fact that you're in your living room, and you're watching television, or you're on your couch, and you're looking at your TV, or your phone, or whatever. Like, focus on who you are and what type of information you're letting into your life and into your head. That's where it starts. You need to become aware of what's going on so that you can accept the now that is. And then once you do that, now we can start moving toward thoughts that makes a little more sense, or ideas or passionate things that you want to pursue. But for now, let's just keep it simple. Let's just be mindful of the things that we're listening to and the things that we're feeling and the stuff that we're letting into our existence, because it's paramount for the future moving forward. So, Jamar, I'd like to wrap this up. This is episode 2.
Boom.
Vested. We're here to inspire, to create, and to empower. We'll be here every Thursday at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time.
Yeah, baby.
You're on E360. Jamar, will you close it out for us, my friend? Whoa!
Hey, we love you. Want to say thank you for investing time with Vested, and subscribe on YouTube. Encourage someone else to be vested. And here, remember, vested is not about us. Vested is about being vested in who you want to become and what you want to do. And we look forward to seeing you next week. Coach D, I love you. To our entire tech team out there, we love you, tech team. And we'll keep on moving and shaking, baby. Boom. Love you, bro.
Love you too, Jamar. I love my wonderful wife. You cannot see this wonderful person over here off to my left before we sign off. This is the one that makes all the things happen behind the scenes. For every wonderful man, there is a crazy lady behind the scenes making it all happen. So I love her. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Mom, so much.
You got it, bro.
Thank you for tuning in. We will see you next Thursday at 6 p.m. Are you bested?
Boom.